Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So it's just me again today. And today we're going to be talking about defusing triggers. So that came from an audiobook that I was listening to yesterday, the idea that we can diffuse triggers. So what does that mean, and what's that got to do with being an adoptee? So I think for me, we talk a lot about being triggered in society these days, and I think at some level it's become one of these words like trauma that's been overused. So people are using it in situations that are, by and large, trivial, shall we say. So I had a radio DJ talking about being triggered, and really it was a nonsense that she was talking about, and that belittling it, using it when this stuff becomes a cliche, it loses its significance and loses its meaning. I don't think that's a great idea. I'm talking about something a little bit more, hopefully a lot more profound than what that DJ was talking about. So we are triggered, yeah. We feel triggered, and there is an explosion. The trigger is pulled, and the gunpowder in the bullet explodes, and that creates a big bang. And an emotional trigger is about these big emotions that we have as adoptees, whether that's our anger, our rage, or our difference between anger and rage. Rage is anger turned up a notch. Terror is fear turned up a notch, and that's what we are often feeling. Yeah, what we're often feeling. So the idea is that triggers are bad. I don't, that's the general idea. That's the belief. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be triggered. I don't want this explosion to go off again within me. And I'm thinking about my anger towards my birth mother, the 20 seconds of anger towards my birth mother that I have felt in my life, and it did feel like an explosion. Something had been triggered. So and this has been happening throughout our lives, right? We've been triggered by stuff has gone off, explosions have gone off, and we have felt terror, we have felt rage, we have felt shame, we have felt that cocktail toxic, that cocktail of toxic trauma that I talk about. And just a side point there, that whenever I mention that, there's the little chance to remind you that we're the cocktail glass, right? We're not its contents. How I feel isn't who I am. Anyway, back to the point. Explosion. We've been triggered. Remember our the first time that we were triggered, and it felt bad. And because we want it to feel bad, we are seeking. We don't want to feel bad, so we're going to suppress our feelings. We're going to avoid situations where we're going to be triggered because we don't want that explosion. And I guess that's one way of looking at diffusing the triggers, so that we are the intense emotional reaction that we sometimes feel doesn't happen. We're looking to avoid that because we think it's bad. Okay. I want to give you an extension of this metaphor that I came from this morning, and that's the idea of blanks. So a blank in a gun, a blank bullet, firing blanks means that there is a loud bang, but there's no damage. Yeah, there's the bullet doesn't do any damage. So what about that as an idea? Yeah, that we feel that pain, and then it goes. There's no damage to there's no collateral damage as the bullet leaves the gun, because we are firing blanks. We're firing blanks. So it's got that intense emotional. It's got that tense, intense emotional feeling, but it does no damage. What would that be like? That's like feeling the feeling and not being afraid of that feeling, not being triggered, not being triggered by that feeling. So although the feeling has been triggered, we have not. And this leads me on to a quote that I heard from a mentor of mine. He was referring to the lady who used to be the leader of Tibet, I think. He had a T-shirt on with this as a quote, and the quote from this woman said, "Fear is a habit, but I'm not afraid. Fear is a habit, but I'm not afraid." So we're recognizing that fear is something that we feel, but we're distinguishing between what we feel and who we are. Yeah. So we're separating our emotions from our from our identity. We are separating who we are, who we essentially are, from the feelings that we feel. We are disidentifying from our trauma. Now, some of you have been saying on my Facebook post that that's a scary thing, to disidentify from our trauma. Maybe it is, if that trauma has been a comfort blanket for us. Maybe it is scary, but is it worth this? Is it worth that fear? Because the safety blanket has not been, may have been keeping us safe on one level, but that safety blanket is veiling the essence of who we truly are. The spirit, the life force, the consciousness, the chi. We all call it different things, but it's the essence of who we are. So if we are triggered, and then there's a blank, there's an explosion, but it's an explosion without repercussions, right? It's an explosion without damage. And then we can begin to look at to think of being triggered as treasure. So this is an idea from Melissa Brunetti, one of the guests we've had on their podcast. Our triggers are our treasures. Right? Triggers are treasures. Wow. So we've shifted our focus here. We've shifted our feelings towards being triggered. Instead of it being a bad thing, the explosions being a bad thing, and so therefore something to be avoided, suppressed, numbed. We all know about numbing in the adoptee community, don't we? So something to be welcomed, because they're treasure. They're treasure. They're treasure that points us back to the essence of who we truly are. The peace in which the explosion appears, the peace that is the space that isn't damaged by how we feel, the open space into which in which our feelings arise. So maybe trauma's really trauma triggers treasures. Yeah, there's something there. Maybe for another day. I'm going to be giving this some serious consideration here. Thank you, Melissa. Triggers are treasure. Thanks a lot, and we'll speak to you again very soon. Goodbye.